This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, everyone. Good Erev Shabbos. We're continuing now in Parshas Bechukosai. We have some very beautiful ideas on Parshas Bechukosai. Here we go. Let's see if this is coming up. Okay. Parshas Bechukosai begins, In Bechukosai telechu v'yes mitzvosai tishmeru v'asisa maisam. Rashi's troubled. What does it mean in Bechukosai telechu? Rashi says it doesn't mean to keep the mitzvahs because it already says v'yes mitzvosai tishmeru. What does in Bechukosai telechu mean? It means amelos b'Torah. So now we have to analyze the following. The pasuk at the end of Bahar ended off as Shabbosai tishmeru v'yes mikdashai tirau. In Bechukosai telechu. And if in Bechukosai telechu you should be Amel B'Torah, then there must be some connection between Shabbos, Mikdash, and Amelus B'Torah. So regarding Shabbos, everybody knows the purpose of Shabbos is not to read magazines. We're saying a very big chiddush. You would have thought you go to the store and you buy Mishpacha, Ami, Hamodia, Yated, Bina, Jewish Press, the Jewish Quarter, the Jewish Dime, the Jewish Nickel, the Jewish Times, and you pile it up by your couch, and over the course of Shabbos, Behasmada Rabbah, you read the same exact thing in 10 different papers. You would think that's the purpose of Shabbos. No, we're saying a chiddush. You're actually Mekayim Shabbos even if you don't even buy any of them. Unless there happens to be an article from something in our Shiurim, then obviously you have to, no. Even then, you'll get it, we'll send it to you, don't worry. There's no mitzvah to read any magazines on Shabbos. So you'll ask, so why do we have Shabbos? I knew you might ask that question. Yeah, the reason for Shabbos is to learn Torah. So that's the connection! As Shabbosai tishmeiru, in Bechukosai telechu. The purpose of Shabbos is Amelus B'Torah. Actually, it's not so pashut. Because Rabbi Akiva writes that you're not allowed to learn Ion on Shabbos. Rabbi Akiva writes in his Siddur that on Shabbos you should learn Agadata. You should learn enjoyable things. But if you learn Ion on Shabbos, Rabbi Akiva says it's Begeder Chilul Shabbos. Some Achrayim do not agree with that. But the Chida also brings that Shabbos is to be ma'aneg in Torah. So that doesn't fit well in this juxtaposition in Bechukosai telechu amelos b'Torah and Mikdasha and Shabbosai tishmeiru. What about the Beis Hamikdash? Well, we know that one of the main objectives of the Beis Hamikdash, it was a makom of the hashpa of Torah. We know that the Mikdash housed the luchais, and without the luchais, we don't have Kedushas HaMikdash. The Goyin says without a Mikdash, we don't have Torah. That's all we daven. Sheyabana Beis HaMikdash, v'chsein chalkeinu b'sayir asecha. Okay. I want to share with you an idea I heard many years ago on a tape from Rabbi Isaac Bernstein, Zechrona Livracha, who is a Rav in London. He was originally from Ireland, a brilliant speaker. And I remember he said this, and I actually looked it up. I have a spiral notebook that they printed from Divrei Torah that he said over, and it's in there as well. On the pasuk, Va'esh bayer ma'itois ulechem, and I will break the peg of your yoke. That should sound familiar to you because we say in benching, Harachaman hu yishbar uleinu me'al tzavarenu. Hashem, you should break our yoke from around our neck. V'hu yoilichenu, you should lead us, kaimemios artzenu, erect to our land. The only thing is, in this week's Parsha, God says, I'm going to break the peg of the yoke. And in Berachas Hamazon we say, Hashem should break the yoke itself. So Reb Shlomo Zalman Ullman would say as follows. You have a farmer. Every year he plows. So he puts the yoke on the animal, and he has to attach the yoke to the animal. So he attaches it with a peg. When the season is over, he puts the yoke back in the garage, and the peg he tosses. And the next year he needs a new peg. But he makes sure to put away the yoke because he's planning on plowing in the next year. But then one day the farmer says, you know what? Why am I a farmer? I should go into nursing homes. I should go into real estate. What am I doing being a farmer? So he's going to sell the farm, or he's going to liquidate everything. So at that point of time, he doesn't just discard the peg, he discards the whole yoke. So too, the Teichacha. The Teichacha is in the time before the 4 Galosim. So God says, when you behave, I'm going to break the peg of the yoke. But you'll still have to go into Galus again one day. I can't say I'm going to break the whole yoke. I'm going to break the peg of the yoke. But that yoke may be needed again later on in history. But Marv Rabbi say, we've already done the 4 exiles. Now we have daven to Hashem. Harachaman hu yishbar uleinu me'al tzavarenu. God, we don't want you to break the peg, to break the whole yoke. We don't need it anymore. We already did the last yoke. We already did the final galus. Okay. The next thing hit me yesterday. I think it's Oyim V'Noira. Last night I told it to the Kala Rebbe, and he liked it very much. I mean, what's he supposed to say? He's in our shul. I mean, but anyway, but at least he said it was good. And listen to the second, toward the end of Parshas Bechukosai, the pasuk says like this: V'chol ma'asar bakar v'tzayin, kol asher yavar tachas hashavet, ha'asiri yiyeh kodesh l'Hashem. Reb Shamshin Me'ashtapoli has a astonishing explanation for this pasuk. He says, we know that the Shvatim that were involved in the sale of Yosef came back and they were punished. They came back reincarnate as the Asara Haruge Malchus. But as from Shanshin Mashapoli, only 9 brothers were involved in the sale of Yosef. So why do we need a Asara Haruge Malchus? Yosef wasn't involved. Binyamin wasn't involved. Ruvain wasn't involved. That's only 9. To which Reb Shimshon Shapoli says, well, the Shechina was involved. So God was involved. God let it happen. God was joined with them. So we need Asara Haruge Malchus. And now the question is, so who's in the place of God? Who is a tikkun for God? Says Reb Shimshon Shapoli, that's what this pasuk is addressing. V'chol masar! You want to know who the 10th is? Well, Bakar Vatzayin, the one who shepherded the cattle and the sheep. Who's that? Rabbi Akiva. Koyal Asher Yavar. Anyone who came back into this world to atone for the Shvatim, Tachas HaShevet, took the place of one of the Shvatim. But Ho'asiri, the 10th one, the 10th of Asar Haruge Malchus, Yeh Kodesh L'Hashem. He's in lieu of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's in the place of the Shechina. Says Rav Shamshon Ashapoli, this pasuk is teaching us that Rabbi Akiva was the 10th one, was the Ma'aser, was the Asiri, and he took the place of the Shechina. And asked Rav Shamshon Ashapoli, why did Rabbi Akiva take the place of the Shechina? Well, because since he darshaned Es Hashem Elokecha Tira L'Rabbis Talmidei Chachamim, and he equated the kavod of the Chachamim to the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rabbi Akiva said, not only fear God, fear Talmidei Chachamim. So Rabbi Akiva held Talmidei Chachamim were equal to Hashem to an extent. So therefore, he's the only one who could take the place of Hashem as a kapara for the Mechiras Yosef. So I'll ask you one simple question. Rabbi Shamshon Mashapoli is teaching us that there's a pasuk in this week's Parsha that explains the fate of Rabbi Akiva. May I ask you, why in this week's Parsha, of all places, do we need to explain the fate of Rabbi Akiva? I mean, we're in the middle of no man's land now in the year. Why are we all of a sudden bothered about the fate of Rabbi Akiva? Maybe it should be in Vayechi. What's it doing randomly in Bechukosai? We say as follows. We've said a number of times, what is the great simcha of Lag BaOmer? That the students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Of course they stopped dying, they were all dead. It's very hard for them to continue to die if there's nobody around. So, scientists have proved that if you're not existent, you can't die. So if there are no Talmidim left, what's the simcha that they stopped dying? So we said from Ramami Pano that there was one survivor who really the decree was upon him as well, and he survived. That is Rabbi Akiva. So the simcha of Lag BaOmer is the survival of Rabbi Akiva. We always lane this Parsha after Lag BaOmer. So after Lag BaOmer, we're bothered by Akasha. We just celebrated the survival of Rabbi Akiva. In other words, Rabbi Akiva didn't die because of what happened to his Talmidim. So then we're bothered by a question. So Taco, why did Rabbi Akiva suffer that fate? And the answer is, it's for an old score. Because he is taking the place of the Shechina and the Mechiras Yosef. But the reason why we need to address it now is because this is the week that we're troubled. So nu, if Rabbi Akiva survived the sin of his students, so why in fact did he die? And the answer to that is Ha'asiri Yeh Kodesh Lashem. Rabbi Akiva died. That was in the place of the Shechina's role in the Mechiras Yosef. Okay, so those are some thoughts on Bechukosai. Now I have some good questions for you. Really good questions.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.